one of the things that we managed to do at Brooklands is attract and be sponsored and supported by a whole range of people with different backgrounds, but the one common theme is always motorcycling. And we've got rather an unusual, if I can say that, motorcyclist here today. And I'm meaning that in as positive a way as I can possibly. And I have with me
Nigel Lim, Blind Bloke Racing.
And what is so special about you? Can you tell us?
Well, nearly 8 years ago, I had a freak accident racing a grass track bike at a proper event on Mablethorpe Beach Racing, and I suffered major brain damage. I got airlifted to Hull Hospital in a coma, and I was in a coma, and the prognosis was that I would either die of my injuries or be a total vegetable all my life. So Julie, my wife, had a decision to make whether to keep me alive as a vegetable all my life or switch me off, and she said that I wouldn't want to live my life as a vegetable, so the decision was to terminate me. And this was on, I think, a Friday or Saturday morning that this decision was made. My parents came to say goodbye to me. Julie was playing me music, as she always did, and she thought she saw a tear from my eye, and she fetched the nurse and says, look at this. And she said, well, these things happen. I think you're clutching at straws, blah, blah, blah. Julie says, can we just keep him alive till beginning of the week? So they agreed to do that. Tuesday morning, I opened my eyes. You know what I mean? I weren't awake, I just opened my eyes. But sadly, that made Julie have a mental breakdown, and she got sectioned and locked into a mental institution. 6 months before my accident, we'd been nursing Julie's mum till she died at home with a brain tumour. So only 6 months before, we was mourning the loss of Julie's mum and still coming to terms with that. And then here we are in December, Julie's now mourning the imminent death of her husband. So that just tipped her over the edge. And so, as I say, I had the accident 2 days after Christmas. So Christmas Day, there's me and Julie, two ordinary people, celebrating Christmas with children and grandchildren. 2 days later, Armageddon sets in. 14 days later, I've got my eyes open and that's it. She's in a mental institution. So blink of an eye, life changes just like that,
Can I just ask you a couple of questions about it? Because the questions will be relevant in a minute or two.
Yeah.
Can you remember having the accident?
No, not at all. Apparently, when I did wake up, I asked, is the man I had a crash with okay? And they said, you didn't have a crash with anybody, Nigel. You had either the throttle stuck open or there was something. I crashed alone. Yet, when I woke up, I don't remember anything of it, yet I thought that I'd been in a racing accident. So where does that come from?
It's fascinating because I had a similar experience at 16, and I had a road accident on a sidecar, and I was given 48 hours to live.
Wow.
That was before the days of people being in comas and whatever. Yeah. And as you can see, I'm still here.
Yeah, both are.
Exactly. But it's always intrigued me that I have lost a part of my life.
Yeah.
That I remember getting on the motorcycle.
Me too.
And I remember waking up in hospital 2 days later.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that you go into no man's land and come out of it in a way.
It's giving me... I've got goosebumps now thinking of that. Yeah, I was in 11 days. Me and Julie, we talk about this obviously, but we refer to this point of when I was away or asleep. You know what I mean? Because, like you, I don't remember getting on the bike at the races. I remember loading my bike in my van that morning and then waking 11 days later. And as far as I'm sure both of us, all we did, we went to sleep one night. I didn't wake up. When we woke up the next morning, it wasn't the next morning. It was. Okay.
So you've been involved in motorbikes all your life, part of your life. Yes. So what's your history on motorbikes?
Well, I've got no history literally, as in racing or anything. But from about 5 years old, my dad made me motorbikes. We actually went to watch Doncaster Dragons Speedway team in Doncaster, and that's where my that's where my love for speedway came from. Obviously, I've rode bikes all my life, rode bikes on the road, you know what I mean, trials bikes. I've had a motocross bike, but I've never really done anything in anger. I've done a bit of rallying, but when I turned 48, I decided to learn speedway at 48, and then 2 years later, I had the freak accident, you know what I mean?
The irony of life is, and I keep telling people this, that motorcycles are slightly addictive, and I've only been riding motorbikes for 69 years, so it's just a learner, really.
Absolutely.
It's interesting that once you get involved in motorbikes, they become part of your life in different ways.
100%. I've always said I'm like a stick of Skegness rock. If you snap me in the middle, I'd have either petrol, rotor, or motorbikes, or, well, I'm a northerner, so I'm going to say oat with an engine. That's
where from in the north?
Well, I say no. I'm a Derbyshire man myself.
Oh, that's wrong side of the Pennines,
I now live in Lincolnshire. I've lived in Lincolnshire 27 years nearly.
Okay.
So
And what about this thing here, which is not exactly normal?
No. So this is an electric speedway bike. I decided I needed something to get out of bed for in the morning. I wanted a challenge, and I want to do something totally out of the ordinary. As far as I know, there's not another one in Britain. I think there is some in Britain, maybe now, but I wanted to build one. It's quite Frankenstein. I wanted to make it Frankenstein because I wanted it to cause a conversation. You know what I mean? I've made it 99.9% myself. So it's all done by the person that can't really see much in my workshop, you know. I'm quite pleased of it, I'm quite proud of it. There's no plans, so it's all educated guesswork, the gearing and everything. It runs on 48 volts. Obviously it's got an MT1304 motor in it, and then a nice controller. I actually rode it at Scunthorpe Speedway track, sorry. It didn't perform quite as I hoped, but equally, you know, come on, you know, the blind bloke's made it, hasn't he? Another thing I wanted to do was to prove to the big manufacturers that if a blind bloke can make one that can run and do something, then surely they can. Now, obviously, I love methanol, Castrol R, sound of engines. Look, I can't see properly, so I rely on listening to something coming past. I rely to smelling something. So there's nobody loves anything like that more than me. I'm a petrol head. But equally, the smell, the sound are shut in stadiums. You know what I mean? So if you can have something that makes no noise yet gives the same form of racing, it's no brainer to me. You know what I mean?
Have you found that your smell and taste and sound have improved since you've lost some of your sight?
Well, I'm going to now quote a blind friend of mine, total blind friend of mine. They don't improve. You just use them. You fine tune them, if you understand what I mean. Yeah. I touch everything. Well, I'll tell you what I do. I do that.
Yeah.
Is it plastic?
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah. You know what I mean. You know.
I understand.
Yeah. You know what I mean. I don't actually touch it like that. I do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You know what I mean.
Well, look, thanks for coming.
Yeah, no problem.
And, you're a credit to anybody who's had a disability.
Thank you. Yeah.
And that's what I've found in life, that usually you think you are the worst off with anybody, and then you come across somebody who's a little bit worse.
You do.
But thanks very much for coming and making part of the show.
Yeah. Cheers. Thank you. Yeah.